Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another Journaling on a Budget video. And today I thought that we would make some labels. Everybody's been using labels lately and I thought, well, we'll just make our own. And you can stamp these on your sticky paper and use them then as a sticky label, or you can just stamp them on regular paper and glue them on. But I have lots of different little samples of labels here that you can use to put in your journals and on your tags. And I'm going to show you if you say, well, but I don't know what to put on my label, you can just go ahead and stamp your label onto a book page. And then you can just, wouldn't this look cute if this little guy was saying something? And if this guy was saying something, wouldn't that be cute? And then this one here, this is like a mountain background. And so it just gives like it's different colors a little bit and gives a little bit of interest in the background, but you can still use it to write whatever you want. So they're just really cute. And like I said, everybody's using them. So I thought, well, I want some. And so I thought we'll just make some of our own. So I have a bunch here that I have made, and I've made them with lots of different things. So these are made with string, and all I did to get this shape of this one was I just drew around the bottom of my hand sanitizer bottle, and then I glued 2 layers of string around there. Now you could do 3 and it would make it even wider, or 4. And then this one I just drew around a pill bottle and went ahead and did that one. And then this one is the bottom of this little hand sanitizer bottle, and that made that one. And then I just did some, this one I actually took this little bottle and I drew part of it here and then came over and drew part of it here. So because I liked this shape, but I wanted a longer one that was just like it. Because it's nice to be able to have just little labels and big labels and all sorts of rounds and ovals. And this one is solid on the outside. So let's see, what did I do with those? So this little label comes from here. And I use Distress inks when I stamp these, so it's not coming out real dark. But, and this label, this is lace on top of Fun Foam. So it's just the lace that shows up. So that's that one. And then we've got the double circle and the oval. And even though you put those 2 pieces of string right next to each other, because they're round, there's a little gap between them, so that gives you the double lines. That's really cool. I love how that turns out. And then we've got this one is just this one right here. And then we've got this one. And on this one it's square corners, but when I cut it out, I rounded the corners because that's what I wanted to do that time. And then we've got this one that shows up like this, and I really like the looks of that too. So, and then these one, so that's what they look like. And like I said, then you can just use them on the front of a journal, on a tag, just in clusters. They use them in clusters all the time. So what I did was I have some, this is just a piece of cardboard packaging, and get my scissors here. I'm just gonna, let's see if I take this apart. There we go. See, there's even a place where you could just draw around it and make a little label like that. This has got a really thin part, so you could use that to make a long label. Now to me that would be too long, so I think I would cut it down a little bit, but it's already the shape that I want it then. Cut this off. And then I think I want a big circle label. Let's get this piece right here too. Let's get this square. There we go. And so what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to use my masking tape and just draw around it just like that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them down, and then once they're completely dry, then we'll cut around them and cut them out, because you do want to cut them out. Well, this one is pretty small already. If you want to do something where you want to get a lot of like if you want to do a lot more like with the pictures, then if you cut right around the edges, you'll kind of know where you're going to lay down at when you go ahead and put it on top of a picture. If you're just going to use it mostly just to stamp on a piece of paper and then cut it out, then it doesn't matter to have the extra around here. I hope that that makes sense. So it's just when you have a stamp in the middle of a large block, sometimes when you're trying to stamp in a specific spot, it's hard to know exactly where your stamp's at because you can't see it. But you can usually guesstimate fairly well. So what I'm going to do, and actually I'm kind of rubbing it, and I shouldn't really be rubbing it. I should just be running a bead of the glue around that circle, because I want it to capture my string. So there we go. And then I'm just going to take some string, about what I think I need, and then a little bit extra, just so that I'm not having to deal with too much. And then just start anywhere and press your string right down into the glue. Now, and then this would be a very thin line on the outside of your label. And then when you went to cut it out, you would cut out just outside the line. You can cut right on the line. You can do it either way. I think I'm going to need to come right about to there. You want them to meet up pretty well, so that, because if they overlap, what's going to happen is that will show when you stamp. So I'm going to make them meet right up there, and then go back and straighten this out, press it down, make sure any place there's a few kinks in my string, so I'm just kind of straightening them out, pushing them into the glue. If your glue is like an Elmer's glue that's really loose, this is tacky glue, so it catches fairly fast. But if you're pushing something into place and it's not staying there, because your glue is still too wet, just give your glue a little chance to set up a little bit, and then go in and adjust it the way that you want it. Now I can decide, do I want it like that? Do I want another piece just on the inside? And I really do like the way that that comes out with the two pieces right next to each other. I'm just going to try and show you, but I don't see that one. And so I think I'm going to put it right inside, because I already have my smaller circle where it's one there and one there. But if you wanted to put one inside, I just go ahead and I put glue around there, and then I just kind of eyeball it to see if it's like about 1/4 of an inch away or something all the way around. Just make it about even. So, but I'm going to take another piece of string and I'm going to put it on the inside. And so I'm going to put a little bit more glue there because I really like that double line. And so just put a little bit more glue around here, just on the inside. And then we'll put our string on there and we'll have the double line. But there are so many ways you can do this. You could do a triple line, which I think would be kind of cool. And you can make them with lots of different things. The nice thing about doing it this way is if you buy labels, they're just shaped however they're shaped. So this way, when you make them yourself, you can have a label any shape that you want it to be. If you see somebody that has a label, excuse me, and you like the shape of that label, you can just go ahead and make your own in that shape. So I'm just pressing that down in there, getting it right next to the other one. I could leave a very slight gap. Remember that because they're both round, they don't exactly come together in the middle, so there will be a small gap when you put two right next to each other. But if you wanted a little bit of a bigger gap, I could just pull this in just a little bit. I could make it a little bit bumpy on the outside, kind of like a flower, you know, just kind of scallop it a little bit. Just going to cut this where it's going to meet. Oh, not quite short enough, and I don't want that extra. But I definitely want them to meet, or otherwise there will be a gap when I stamp. There we go. And now just go through and make sure that you've got it rounded again, or that you didn't get it out of round, I should say. And I think that that looks pretty good. And so now what I have to do is I just have to let my glue dry. And if there's any spots where your glue is really high, where you think your ink is going to catch it, then just go ahead and run your finger around there, run a paper towel or something, a toothpick, and just remove some of that glue so that it doesn't dry where your ink is going to catch it and it's going to put a mark on your paper. But if it's low enough that you don't think that's going to happen, then you don't even have to worry about it. And there we go. Now we have a double line round one. And I wanted to make, let's see, let's go about, maybe about this big. I want to do a square one. Is that about square? Probably. Nice thing about making your own, you can just eyeball it and it doesn't have to be perfect. I wanted to show you with the lace, I wanted a square lace one. So this one here, this is just lace, and it comes out looking like that, which I think is really fun. Now this is a heavy, I think they call it like a crocheted lace. If it was super thin, I don't think it would work really well, but I'm not really sure. Just gonna pull some out and give it a cut. Better scissors would be a little bit easier. Now you can miter your corners and meet them up that way, like this. Just cut a bit of an angle there. Okay, so that one's there. My next point is going to be right here, so that's my point I have to remember. So I want to go to that spot like that. So that one's going to fit on there just like that. And now if I take this one, I could come over here and that would kind of line up, but then my little circles that are on the inside here would be on the outside there. So I don't want to do that. What I want to do is kind of cut it this way. Let's see how that fits. So you're just going to kind of put it in there and figure out where you need to be to make the two fit into that corner, where your miter needs to be. And I need to bring it in just a little bit. And really, I shouldn't be doing it with these scissors because they're so bad that they're just messing up my lace. But we're going to just go through it. Okay, so that looks like that's going to meet up pretty good. And so that one now, my point needs to be right at the corner of this cardboard. So this is where my point needs to be. And your miters don't have to be perfect. If you need them to be, you can make them that way. But if you don't need them to be, then you don't have to worry about it. So if those line up there, and I'm going to make sure that I line up here at the bottom too. So if I line those up there, that one looks pretty good. And then I'm going to cut the opposite angle on this again. Wonder if I can kind of figure out where, I have to start by cutting it and then figuring out where it needs to be. Let's see how close I got. And that's not too bad, except I don't have a point out here, and I need to get just a little bit more off of this side. So, and if you have a nice pair of, scissors that are not going to keep moving your lace, it will be a lot easier to do this, because this just keeps crushing and moving my lace. So if I put that one there, that looks pretty good, and then I'm going to have my next point right out here. Like that. That one's going to fit there, that one's going to fit there. And then my very last one. Okay, that needs to be a much bigger angle on it. Okay, that will be all right, and then like that. Okay. All right, so that looks like that's going to fit pretty good, and you can adjust your lace a little bit as you're gluing it, and it's also easier to once you get a piece glued down, if you need to do a little trimming on the next piece, to do that. I am going to glue this one down off camera. So, and I think, looks like this piece I might have cut too short. We'll find out later. I'll let you know if I did. Oh, maybe not. So, but anyway, so there's going to be one like that. And then you've got your fun foam. And of course, with fun foam, you can do anything. So we can just do kind of a nice wide one. And let's say we want one that big. It's a little off though, so I'm going to trim it down. No good at cutting straight lines, but hey ho, it is supposed to be homemade. And that's what we're doing. And then I really do like the one that is solid. Of course, I can't ever find, like this one. I really like the way that this one turns out. So, I could leave this one solid and then just maybe like put some scallops on it. So I could do like this all the way around, and then you're going to make sure that you're going to have to go over these and make them really deep. And then what will happen is they won't show up when you stamp, but everything else will. I'm trying to think if they're going to work real well right here, but we'll just make it work. Let me do this one first. And when you go to put your lines in, you can always adjust it a little bit when you do that. And you can make this perfect. You can measure out little marks so that each one of these are exactly the same size. So then I can just make those marks deeper, and then I'll have that little scallop all the way around. Like on here where the white line is, it will be the scallop. So that's, that's fun foam. And you can also, with the fun foam, you can make it so that you have an outline just by folding it in half. And then cutting out the middle. Just like this. And then that's going to give you an outline. Now you can leave that outline solid, just like I did with this one. Or you can put marks in that outside part, and then it will come out with marks on it. Now, the other one, when I cut it out, I rounded the corners off when I cut out after I stamped it. So I think maybe I'll make this one with rounded corners, because this is what it looks like, and this one has square corners, but when I cut it out with rounded corners. So now I might as well just make one that has rounded corners, so that when I cut it out, the corners will always already be rounded in the way that I want them to be. And when you stamp it out, if you're not sure what it looks like, you can just use it like this and stamp it out before you glue it to your cardboard. So if you need to make adjustments, like the top of this one is a whole lot wider than the bottom, so I think I'll just take some of that off before I glue it to my cardboard. And there we go. Now just glue that to a piece of cardboard. Just like that. And then also this one here, I would glue to a piece of cardboard. So we've got them made with string, we've got them made with lace, we've got them made with fun foam, and you actually could even turn this into a tag. Wouldn't that be cute? You know what? Let's do that. And you know what? I think I'm going to, on the end here, draw a little circle. And remember that when you're doing that, to make your lines deep, and so it will look like it has like a little screw hole in it. There. So we'll make that one into a tag. I'm going to glue these down, let them dry, and then I will come back and show you what they look like, and we'll stamp them. Okay, I'm back, and they're dry enough for us to try them out. So if you haven't seen us make the foam stamps before, or our homemade stamps, the one thing is that once they're dry, if you take a piece of masking tape and kind of fold it in on itself, leaving some wings out to the side, and then just put that on the back of your stamp, then that will make it so that after you put your stamp on your paper, it's easier to lift off instead of trying to get it off like this, especially with really small stamps. It's nice to have that little handle on there. So we've got the 5 different ones that we made up, and we'll set those aside, and we'll ink one up and see how it works. So now this one having such a large space in the center, I'm kind of going around the outside edge. It may be easier to, might be easier to do it this way. No, because I can't see what I'm doing. So again, I'm just going to go around my stamp. And if you get some in the middle or on the edges, you want to make sure that you don't press the cardboard down hard in those spots. And you can also cut a circle that you can stick in there after you're done inking, before you stamp. That will go ahead and make it so that it stays clean in the center of your tag. The outside edges won't make any difference because you're going to cut your tag out. So there we go. I think I've got ink on the whole thing, so now I'm just going to take it, find a solid spot here, and then I'm just going to press where I think the stamp is. And like I said, if you want, you can cut around your stamp, then you'll know exactly where your edges are. But I just don't want to press in the middle because I know I got ink in the middle. So there we go. And there is our first label. And I think that turned out really cool. And I wanted a nice big one, because sometimes you don't know, when you just might need a big one. So let's try this one next. And again, I'm just going to go around the edges. Kind of want to get to the edge of the inside edge of my lace without going over. Kind of can see where the edge of my stamp pad is. Now this one, because it's so intricate and because the lace has different heights, the way that I would normally try and stamp this one would be to take my paper and set my paper on my stamp like this, because then I can press down on that lace, and where it's higher, I can press next to that to catch the part that's lower, so that we can try and get all of the pattern instead of just the high spots. And I can feel that lace under there, so I can kind of tell where it's at. And I just kind of want to try and make sure that I get the inside and the outside, and then the high spot that's in the middle. Let's see how that one looks. And that's how that one turned out, and I really like that too. So now, had we just pressed it this way, I don't know if I'll get a second stamp off this or not, but if we had just pressed it this way, we may not have got as clean, as much detail as massaging it from the back side. So, and actually it's just the second stamp just didn't turn out as well. But that's just a way, if you've got something that's very detailed and has a little bit of different height to it, because when you buy stamps, you know, they make sure that they're all exactly the same height. But when you make your own, you can't always make sure. Like, I couldn't make that lace all the same height, because that's the way it was knitted, was to be different heights. I'm just gonna pat on it. Because this is so smooth, I don't want to really drag across it, because those drag marks will show. I don't need to worry if I got any on the edges, because again, we're going to cut it out. On the solid ones, you may want to use lighter color inks, so that when you write on them, they're easier to see. So that's what that one looks like. That looks kind of cool. Kind of looks like a book plate. And now we've got 2 more to go. Just give it a little, try and make sure that my ink looks like it's about even. We'll do this one. And the biggest thing is just give it a little massage. Let it sit there long enough for that ink to soak into the paper. That's a really wet ink pad, so it's not really having much of a problem soaking into the paper. That's what that one looks like. Now this one looks kind of cool. It's got a hole on this side, but this one was pressed all the way down. So what I really would probably do, so that I don't have a little dot on one side and not the other, and I can't bring my foam back up on this side, so what I will do is I will just push it down on this side. And I'm going to push down both sides, because I'm not absolutely positive which side was the side that touched. And that way both ends will look the same when I use this stamp. And our final one here. Press that one down and give it a bit of a massage, and then we'll kind of cut them out and see what they look like as labels instead of just on this big piece of paper. And there is that one. And there we go. And I like the little imperfections in there. Now, if I had made sure I got ink on the whole thing, that wouldn't have looked like that. But I really do kind of like that look. It just makes them look a little bit older. And so I'm just going to cut this one out. And I do like to leave just a little bit of an edge around it. But then a lot of times I wind up inking that edge anyways. But I ink it with a different color, so it still looks like it has the edge on there. But you can cut it out right next to, or you can leave an edge like this. Just leave a little white border, I guess I would say. And if you're cutting the border and you really mess up, well, then that one you just don't put a border on it. So there, that's a pretty cool tag. I like that. Now let's do the round one. But these are just fun because then you can make the same pattern over and over if you want to. But you can also have lots of variety. You can make as many as you want. And it doesn't take much of any type of product. A little bit of fun foam or a little bit of string. And then all you need is a little bit of ink and some paper, and you can have as many tags as you want. And then you can decorate them up. And I keep calling them tags, I think, but they're labels, not tags. I really like how this lace one turned out a lot. And there we go. There's that one. I really, really like that one. But, you know, the thing is that when you do it, let's cut this one right on the edge. When you make your own, they can be any color you want them to be. They can be any shape that you want them to be. If you mess up on it, you just stamp another one. It's not a big deal. And you know, yeah, it takes some time to make them, but remember, creating is creating. It doesn't matter whether you are creating a tool for yourself, like a stamp of your own, or whether you're creating a page for a journal, or you're crocheting something, or anything else. It doesn't matter what you're doing, so long as you're creating something. We'll cut this one right along the edge also. And I do like the way that this one turned out, but let's say you have one that you don't like the way it turned out because it's got a lump on it or something. Then instead of cutting it out with the border, just cut it out right along the edges and cut the bump off. And no one will ever know that it was there. And so there we go. And it really didn't take that long. What took the longest was letting them dry. But we have all of these stamps, all of these labels. I have these labels that I had made earlier. And now we just have a bunch more to go right along with them. And I'm just really happy with them. And I just think it's nice to be able to have these labels to use in whatever we want to. When you watch somebody make something and they have some labels and you think, oh, I wish I had some. Now you can have your own. So thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.